Welcome to another episode of BC Spirits. Of course, I'm your host, Sean Sewell. Last week, because it's dry January, I decided to do a whole big episode on syrups. I know there's still a ton of syrup companies out there, Frostbite, mixes and elixirs and that sort of thing. I really want to taste that stuff again, so it'd be nice to revisit syrups later on down the track, purely because it's a nice break from tasting 14 barrel-aged gins or 10 whiskies or whatever ludicrous number of stuff I taste on a weekly basis. It's a nice little break, and so it's like a dry episode, if you will. But about 10 years ago, with the explosion of BC craft spirits, we definitely saw an explosion of like syrups, like we talked last week, and bitters. And bitters are very, very important to cocktail. Cocktail, by definition, is spirit, sugar, bitters, water. And so, by definition, bitters are an integral part of what makes up a cocktail. If you look at your classics, your old fashions, your Sazeracs, so on and so forth, they all have a bitter element. And so, of course, craft distilleries opened up. Bartenders started creating their own bitters lines. And so we have a ludicrous amount of bitters. Now, I'm only doing 2 houses, and I think we have about six houses in the province. So it's kind of crazy that there's 6 to 10. I think there might be more than 6 actually. Bitter houses in the province. It boggles the mind. But I wanted to go on to the original OG bitter houses in BC, which was started by Jonathan Chauvenet and Lauren Mott, who have now moved over to Amsterdam for Lauren's job as the world-class Diageo global cocktailian ambassador for everything that they do for their education program. And so they started creating. I remember Lauren first started creating the bitters when she worked at, I'm going to forget the name. It was upstairs on Granville Street. And she started making these bitters. And at Clive's back in the day, I remember having little jars of her bitters that I would put into cocktails and stuff like that. And then Bittered Sling was born. Bittered Sling has become an absolute powerhouse of a bitter company all over the world. Actually, both of these are massive bitter companies internationally, and they're all both based in BC here. But Bittered Sling was the OG bitter house in BC. I'm tasting 9 of their bitters. I think they have a couple more, but I've only got the little mix packs. The other house that we're doing is going to be Miss Better Bitters, and they have a lot of bitters. So my palate is going to be shot to hell at the end of this episode. Now, how can you explain bitters to people who have never used bitters before? Bitters in a bar, or if you're a cocktail person, are your salt and pepper. They're your seasonings. That's the best way I like to describe them. They're your seasonings. And why are they your seasonings? My best description of how bitters can change a drink is by making a classic Prohibition-style martini, which is like either you do 2/3, 1/3 of gin and vermouth. Say you do the Bittered Sling range, make 9 of them with 2 dashes of different bitters in each single one, and then taste every single one. And it's kind of amazing how each bitter pulls out different flavors from the gin, different flavors from the vermouth, and behaves so differently in the drink that it really shows how bitters can be, like it's 2 dashes, we're talking like 2 mils, 3 mils in a drink, but that's what salt and pepper does. Salt and pepper makes your food taste better. So that's how I usually like to describe them. People say like, well, how do I use bitters? Go and make the same drink 8-9 times with different bitters in each one, tasting each one, and seeing how each one tastes completely different from the one before based on the bitters used. So that's my little Bitters 101 episode. Bitters are created by deep steeping botanicals in neutral alcohol. Sometimes a little bit of sweetener in the finishing. They get strained and bottled. And these are a little bit different to your other bitters, such as your Camparis and Chinas and stuff. These ones are dashable, whereas the other ones you can drink. Although I have seen people doing shots of Angostura bitters, which I recommend if you love Fernet Branca and Unicum. It's a really nice little step up. Not something I would do all the time, because bitters technically are supposed to be helping for your ingestion. When your body ingests something that's high alcohol proof and lots of herbs and spices, your body's like, okay, I need to get rid of this. I need to move this out of my system. And it takes everything along with it. That's why things like chartreuse, Fernet, that sort of thing are drunk after dinner, because it helps you digest your food. So let's kick it off with the tasting. So how do you taste bitters? How do you taste? Now there's a couple of different ways. Tasting bitters is similar to my rule of thumb for cocktails. There is no right way to taste something, but there's plenty of wrong ways to taste things. Now, some people, what they do is they dash in their hands and then they and you really get the aroma, and you can understand. This is the Kensington from. I'm going to have to get really close to the camera here. Kensington from Sling. This would be, I would class this as their classic aromatic bitters. Your Angostura substitute, that sort of thing. The other way of doing it, which either way is going to ruin either your nose, your hands, or your palate, is going to be tasting it that way. It's doing a dash on your hand, licking it, and moving on. Now this is the hard thing, is like, how do you get that flavor and translate it into a drink? How do you get it to work out, like, this is how I can see it? So you do a little research on your flavor profiles. I use my flavor Bible a lot. The flavor Bible is my Bible, basically. You've got to look at that as well and see how it sort of works. For me, the Kensington is definitely something that I would just use in your classic old fashions and your Manhattans and stuff. That would be where I'd be going with that one. So the Moondog is, it's all in French. It's another sort of aromatic bitters, but I feel like they've got a little bit more of a kick and a punch to this one, oregano and whatnot. Whew. That one takes the aromatic bitters from the Kensington and like pops it up with a little spice to it. That's actually quite really good. Like, again, try it in old fashioned. Try it with a BC rye. It would really complement the notes. Now we're going to have something that's a little bit cooling. So the Lem Marrakesh. So it's basically a citrus bitters with Marrakesh spice. So lemon peels, Moroccan spices, and bitter Kikona bark. So definitely a nice lemony, citrusy, spicy, aromatic sort of bitters. And that's where you're going to see, when we start really getting into these, that you're going to sort of see like a aromatic bitter base foundation component, and then like a spike of different flavors. So usually, for me, when I've made my bitters, you have like a nice aromatic base, and then you just add more things to it, orange and that sort of thing. Cascade celery. So the Cascade celery, this is going to be a long tasting. I'm just looking at the time. Oh yeah. So for the Cascade celery, start leaning in towards your aquavits, your gins, obviously. Don't be lame and just put in your Caesars. Like, let's step it up a little bit. If you are going to do your Caesar, only do an ounce of Clamato, shake it, strain it, put it up in a cocktail glass, over putting it on the rocks and making it tomato soup. The grapefruit and hops, which I find fantastic. I use this in a lot of drinks. Yeah, this one, if you ever tasted like a hop whiskey or a hop gin, it gets like this beautiful, punchy, fragrant, fresh grapefruit, and then you get the kick of the hops, the aromaticness of the hops, like almost like a dry hopped IPA, that like super fragrant finish. I'm going to have to drink a lot of water in this one. Ooh, this is my next one. Awesome. These are one of my favorites. If you watched the episode last week with the root beer syrup, I really enjoy the plum and root beer in a like a root beer or a cola old fashioned. Ooh, you get the really nice root beer tone, and the plum is this sort of like rounded sweetness that goes on the outside of the root beer. So the root beer sits inside with the aromatics, and then the plum sort of sits on the outside really nicely, if that makes sense at all. Western Haskap. Now this one's an interesting one because I love the Haskap liqueur from Okanagan Spirits. So it's a berry. It's a berry that's native to BC here. You got the baseline of that foundation of aromatics again, and then you've got that bright, almost tart, cranberry, blueberry, blackberry sort of feel to it, flavor. Berries. Okay, guys, like, try this out in, I'm going to say gin. You know what? Barrel-aged gin, and this with a tea syrup maybe. Something like that might go really well with that one. Or that cardamom citrus tonic syrup from root side, stirred, served up, old-fashioned style. Ooh, the Malagasy chocolate and the Arabica coffee. So good with Averna and like other Amaros. Chocolate and coffee with Amaros go really, really well together. And the chocolate is just so fucking fantastic. It's got a little spice to it, almost like a mole. But the coffee is this sort of, the chocolate is this sort of dry, sweet chocolate tone of cocoa husks instead of cocoa nibs, which I just love. You've heard my whole spiel about cocoa husks. I love cocoa husks. And we'll finish off with the Arabica coffee because I need more coffee in my life, obviously. Again, just straight up great coffee. So if you're looking for sort of like a coffee-esque sort of chocolatey coffee tone to your Manhattans, Old Fashions, that sort of thing, way to go. So I need some water because my palate is starting to really, really feel this. So next up, one of my favorite, like most eclectic, newish bitters makers is the Miss Better Bitters. I use these guys a lot too. They just do some crazy cool shit, and I've used a lot of their products in the past. And Miss Better Bitters is fantastic. They have this beautiful balance. So the cucumber, how are you not in my life more often? Cucumber. Try this in a gin martini. Cucumber with a dash of cucumber. It's gonna change your freaking life. The aromatics are very subtle and bright on the back palate. Cucumber forward. That is a nice little one. It's not. I would say it leans much more to like a tincture style of like cucumber. Sumac kiwi. Whoa. So sumac, if you ever taste the Manitau from Legends, how has that got acidity? Oh, my mouth is like watering. The acidity in this is just incredible. The sumac, I've always found sumac extremely difficult to get the flavor because you smell it and it's this beautiful acidic, orangey, sort of vinegary sort of tone. But I've never had it come out in a spirit as well as this one. The kiwi's there, sumac. Again, the botanical aromatics underneath are very, very subtle, very, very clean and bright instead of a deep sort of heavy botanical. The cypress bowl. Obviously the cypress bowl, we're looking for more pine. So again, like, if you're still out looking for bitters and stuff, oh, almost minty. Yeah, it's like a minty pine. Well, that's tasty. Again, another one for like your barrel-aged gins and that sort of thing. So one thing I say, like, as we're getting halfway through this tasting here, guys, one thing I always say is, like, with how many bitters purveyors there are in the province, in BC, and these are all internationally available, don't make bitters anymore, please. Like, these guys make better bitters than you can make. And if you're making great bitters and you're loving it, knock yourself out. Honestly, if you're making orange bitters, go for it. I honestly believe that you can buy orange bitters much better and you can spend time making something else. That's always my thinking. As an operator, why would I want my staff to be wasting 10 hours a week making bitters when they can be creating something else and utilize the bitters that we already have? I've got something like freaking 20 bitters in front of me right now. Or the lime leaf. This is going to kick me in the ass, this one. Oh, I used to use this a lot at FTW. We used to have a clarified strawberry daiquiri on tap. We'd go through liters of this a week. Mainly because we use that as a clarified, because a cheetah clarified. So, white rum, lime leaf bitters from Miss Better Bitters, the strawberry that we're going to taste very shortly, along with some sugar syrup, some lime acid, and away we go. The Mount Fuji is great. White peach, chrysanthemum, burdock, and yuzu. So definitely more Japanese style flavors. Got a little funk to it. Again, your gin, little baijiu, that funky little baijiu going in there as well. This would be fantastic to level that off. The chocolate. I think I'm going to be mixing this flavor profile up a little bit. Oh, great, just chocolate flavor. Like, if you want chocolate in your drinks, there you go. And I finished with a little spice. Finished with a little spice and a little aromatics. So going back, these guys have an orange and juniper one too, which I really love too. I should have grabbed that. I'm sure I had it. So the orange tree. Again, if you can get orange bitters from Miss Better Bitters, and that's just straight up like orange flower water bitters. That's awesome. So like if you can get orange bitters, like orange and juniper and orange from Miss Better Bitters, just use that. Don't make orange bitters. It became fashionable. The reason why I made orange bitters is because you couldn't get orange bitters. Same reason I used to make ginger beer and tonic water is because you couldn't get good products. Now you can. So don't waste your time. Trans Canada. It actually doesn't say what the flavors are, but I am very impressed with this one. Trans Canada, I'm guessing it's Canadian flavors as you cross Canada. I'm going to change this one up. Strawberry. This one is great. Green strawberry bitters. Again, going back to FTW, we used to use a ton of these. And it's just strawberry. It's just so delightful. Grapefruit. Again, grapefruit hops, grapefruit. Don't make grapefruit bitters. You can buy them. And just straight up grapefruit pith, grapefruit skin, grapefruit flesh. Oh, I think I might have to cut this one short because this is a lot of stuff. Smoke and Oak. This one is kind of cool. I think it sort of was very... Yeah, it's kind of woody, cedar, smoke, like a smoked glass, like a smoked old-fashioned sort of style. Really tasty little number there. The classic aromatic, which I'm really interested in tasting this one. A little brighter, a little more citrus to it than the Bittered Sling. But this is where you have both the aromatics and you either use different cocktails and stuff like that. Bitters shouldn't be like one size fits all, because for so many years, that's what we had. That's what everybody had. Like we had Angostura, we had Peychaud's, we had orange bitters. These drinks you see in all the cocktails. Abbott's and Bocca's have come back recently, but this is what you always saw in the classic cocktail books, is those three bitters. And you can just expand so much further now. Like, why pigeonhole yourself into one that you can only do once? Oh, tonic bitters. I haven't tasted these ones at all, but I'm guessing it's going to be tonic. Ooh, if you want to pump up, if you really want to pump up your gin and tonics, a little dash of this, it's going to give you that kick. Alright, my last one. Whew. Miss Better Bitters, Pineapple and Star Anise. This one I love. It's just like pineapple skin, fresh pineapple. Anise is in the background. This is one that I use in a lot of tiki drinks, rum-based drinks. I know that's very cliche and very boring, but like I do use this to pump up a lot of my tiki drinks. The last one I wanted to chat about is one that I use a ton of, and that is the Miraculous Foamer. So this is what you use instead of egg whites. And I really love this because if you work in a bar, I don't believe in pasteurized egg whites. I don't really love pasteurized egg whites. I much prefer fresh cracked. But of course that leads to a massive carbon footprint issue where you've got yolks and giving yolks back to the kitchen. If the kitchen's not making pasta, what are they using it for? So on and so forth. So I've been using this for years. I really love how it comes out. You don't have to dry shake and wet shake. It just like foams and it's done. I really appreciate this product because I think that it's really cutting down on the carbon footprint for use of egg whites in bars. And I really love this as a substitute. But that was a lot of bitters. It's a bit longer episode than I'm used to, but this is just two bitters house, guys. There's two bitters house. We have maybe 6 to 10, I think, depending on where you look. I'll probably do another bitters episode, maybe not this big, but go out, find the OGs, Bittered Sling, find Miss Better Bitters, get some sample packs from your local, like, little deli or whoever does your little cocktail ingredients and stuff, because I think once you start tasting these in your cocktails, you're really going to be blown away with how good these bitters change the way that you do your cocktails. And that's the real game changer, is like you have all these bitters, do the martini thing that I said at the start of the episode. I think it's going to really change your game. So I think this is going to be the last episode for Dry January, so next week I'm going to be back drinking some stuff. I'm not sure what episode's going to be about. But have a good week, guys. Thanks for the support for 2019. I'm going to give love to the 2020 already. Thanks for everything, and I'll see you next week. Bye.